Hey podcast, just before we get you to this episode, I wanted to invite you to join us at pageantlaunch.com. We are starting the world's first dedicated pageant review site, and we want you to join our launch team. All you need to do is put in your email address. It's completely free. We are looking to make the pageant industry safe, transparent, and fair, and we'd love your input on how to do that. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, whack in your email address, and let's get you to this episode.
I'm Sandahl Taylor, Mrs. Germany World, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hey everyone, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project, and I have with me today, this is Germany World 2020, Sandahl Taylor. Sandahl, how are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for asking. Doing well.
And whereabouts are you coming to us from? We have a very international show, goes all the way from Australia to the UK, to the US, and probably some other countries soon. So whereabouts are you in this world of ours?
Currently, I am at my home residence in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I'm in the States.
Okay, and as someone who's never been to Pennsylvania, can you start with giving me the brief overview of Pennsylvania and what are some of the unique things I could do, see, eat, or drink in Pennsylvania? Because it's a pageant interview, it normally devolves into eating because we love talking about food.
Well, if you're in the mind for food, you are definitely going to come to the right place. So first things first, I am what they call a yinzer. So we say hi yins or hey yins, not like hey y'all or hey you guys. So first things first, you're going to need to learn how to say yins if you want to fit in. Second thing is when you come to my city, it is just beautiful. So I am on the western side of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a huge state. It actually takes about 6.5 hours to get across the state. I can get to multiple other states in the time frame it takes for me to get across my state. But there's so many things to do, from running the Rocky Stairs in Philadelphia to watching a Steelers game with me in my hometown of Pittsburgh.
Wow. Okay. Go back to the yins. So what does yin? What does that mean?
So it's a form of UNs, YOUNS, and it's a Pittsburgh thing. Most people from Pittsburgh say yins, YINZ. So that's how you can tell if somebody's from Pittsburgh, if they say, hey yins, or hey you guys, or and at, like N''AT, like and that. Kind of a little tidbit if they're straight giveaway.
I'm so glad you told me, because if I go to Pennsylvania and someone said that to me, I would actually think they're insulting me or something. I would think it's a derogatory term. So I'm glad that we cleared that up now. So it's hey yins, which basically hey y'all.
Yes. But like I said, that's only in Pittsburgh. Now, if you say that in Philly, you might start a fight because they might think that you're a Steeler fan. So, you just got to watch where you're going to be at.
Okay, I might just say hello. I'll stick with my hello.
I love it.
Trouble so far. Guys, I can see a lot of you tuned in. So if you haven't watched one of my interviews before, you can, and wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you can write in the comments, and Sandahl will not only be able to see the comments, but if you have any questions, he'll be able to answer them. So we already have Edmund. I don't know how many of these people you know, Sandahl, but I'll go through the comments. You've got Edmund Porter saying hi. That looks like a very interesting profile photo there, Edmund. Looks like you've got a horse in the background. Anthony, I think you're over in Greece, aren't you? She said hello. And Tameka Jones Young has already laughed about the hey yens. So
I love it. Hi, guys.
And Charlotte's over on Facebook. Yeah, so let me know where you're watching from. Let Sandahl know where you're watching from. Sandahl, let's get into the easy stuff first. Let's talk about pageantry and how you got involved in the crazy world of pageantry to begin with.
It's not actually a simple story. I grew up modeling. My dad was a hobbyist photographer who actually got to work in a group photo shoot with Cindy Crawford when he was becoming a hobby photographer. So it was really, really cool to what I call grow up behind the scenes. And it kind of what drew me in the first place. So I started modeling when I was 3 years old. I did Sears catalogs, J.C. Penney's, Kaufman's. These are all department stores over here that are no longer here. But I started growing up and just doing a whole bunch of modeling, and I fell in love with it. I got out of it for a few years, and then I had a competition that actually drew me back in that was more of a bikini modeling competition, and it was pageant kind of based, but not all pageant. So there was like an interview and of course swimsuit, but it wasn't fully pageant based. And I kind of went from there. My first ever pageant was as a married woman in 2015. I competed for Mrs. Pennsylvania American Beauty, which is through the Mrs. American Beauty system. And that was my first pageant ever in 2015. And now, 5 pageants later, I'm still going on.
That's not a bad average. You started about 5 years ago and you've done 5. So you're averaging about once a year. So you're doing pretty well.
Thank you.
So that's how you got involved with pageantry to begin with. Obviously, you've done 5, so something kept you in that world. What was it that attracted you to pageantry? What are the parts, the aspects that really you enjoyed and kept you going?
So I had a director that actually reached out to me, saw what I was doing in my community, and really thought that I would make a really good pageant title holder. And at the time, I was a little bit lost. I was going through a lot of different stuff in that year, kind of finding myself and a little bit of reinventing, I guess you could say. And going through pageantry really helped me not only find myself, but it also reminded me of the things that I was really passionate about and really energized about. And then I got there and I realized that there was so much more to that you didn't see. It was the camaraderie between queens. It was the community service that I already loved to do. And it was getting to meet people like yourself from across the world that I really would have never had a chance to meet. And that's kind of what's kept me here amongst multiple things. I love the system that I compete for. I love the women that I meet, the directors, just everything about it is something that continues to draw me back.
And you mentioned that, I think it was, you said your first director said that you'd be a good fit for pageant. Sorry, no voice here because it's too early in the morning for me on a Sunday, apparently. Let's try that again. You mentioned that someone said you'd be a good fit for pageantry because of the work you did sort of in the community. So what sort of work were you doing or have you been doing in the community? Because I know that you have done and continue to do a lot.
Absolutely. So for the past 19 years, I've been an advocate for heart health. It actually started really to take feet in 2005 when my dad had a heart attack and stroke. I actually started to become a spokesperson for the American Heart Association and expanded my horizons to the European Society, for cardiac disease. I actually worked with the German Heart Foundation and I'm now partnering with the Hungarian Heart Foundation as well. So I've been kind of just expanding my horizons as far as that. And then it developed into more of a personal mission. I've been through a lot of things in my life that I had to kind of emerge from. And so I started to do 2 different platforms. One was something I called the Emerge Project, where I taught women actually how to tell their story or to teach them how to find that one thing that they're really good at, and then they can teach it to someone else. Because I really believe that if we could come together as a society and think about the one thing that we're really, really good at and teach it to somebody else, we're doing something really positive. And the second thing is that I started to give out free haircuts to those in need. So it originally started with veterans. It's something I've been doing my whole life. And then it kind of turned into more than that. I started giving free haircuts to the homeless, women's shelters, men's shelters, and then my favorite, Children's Hospital, for just basically anyone who's in need. And I've been doing that now for over 10 years.
Can I ask, in 10 years, how many haircuts do you think you've done for that cause?
If I had to take a guess, it'd probably be over 5,000, but I really don't keep track anymore. I've been working with several organizations such as the Veterans Leadership Program, the Dress for Success program in my area, again, the Children's Hospital, Women's and Health Shelters. So even at an annual event, we can cut anywhere between 50 to 100 cuts in a day. It's just something amazing. And recently, in the past 2 years, I've been trying to get my nonprofit started called the Haircut Project, and so that I can expand and actually take it on the road and travel and give people free haircuts across the world.
Sure. I'll just bring you up to date with some of the comments. So Tamika has said, we love Sandahl, checking in from DC. She's Mrs. Brightwood, DC. This is an interesting comment. Got, hi, Mum, this is Stacia.
My daughter.
Okay.
From my husband. They're watching.
Joni has said, hey, pretty. Catherine has said, this lovely lady got me into pageantry. You are amazing. And Anthea has said, such a lovely way to give back. Sandahl, you mentioned veterans somewhere in there. And coming from Australia, I've heard a lot about the importance of veterans in America in terms of mental health. But I'm not that aware of why it's such a big issue specifically in America. So can you give me an idea as to why you advocate or why you choose to help veterans in America and why it's such an important issue?
Absolutely. So it's not just veterans in America that I choose to help, it's veterans across the world. If you are someone who has served either for this country or for another country, you put your life on the line for something that is so much more important than thyself. And I think that that's really important. I come from a really long line of veterans, so much so that it goes back to 1787 as I've been doing my genealogy research. It's been amazing to find out. But my dad was a Vietnam veteran and my husband is in the military. Well, he's a veteran as well. And it's just very important for me to remind people that these are the people who fought for our right to have a free country, that fought for our right to continue to live the way that we live. And if we forget those people, then where would we be? People don't realize how much a haircut can change somebody's life. It can make or break somebody getting a job. It can allow someone to have an opportunity that wouldn't have presented themselves in another format. And most importantly, it can change their perspective on life. A haircut can literally, to me, change somebody's life. And I've seen it firsthand whenever I was given an opportunity to work with the Dress for Success program, getting my life back on track. Now it's come full circle and it's been amazing for me to do that for someone else.
What is the most moving thing you've been told after a haircut? Because I have heard there's a charity, for example, here in Australia that for victims of domestic violence, which obviously is predominantly women and young children, and they put together hampers of little cosmetics products like little bubble baths or face masks, quite expensive, higher tier things. But a lot of people look at that and go, well, that's not really going to change their lives. But what I found from working with those people is that when a woman who's, let's say, probably homeless or living in a shelter gets that sign that just someone cares, it really can have a huge impact and change their lives. So for yourself, when you give someone a haircut, what are some of the things that happen after that simple, seemingly simple gesture?
For me, it's knowing that I've given a haircut to someone who can have a new opportunity. I actually have a gentleman who I cut his hair every year. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get to see him this year due to the coronavirus, but I've cut his hair for the past 5 years at the annual event that I do that is called Alive Pittsburgh. He's not only homeless, but he's a veteran. And every year he waits to see if I'm going to be there to cut his hair. And that's his only haircut that he gets during the year. That's the only one that he can afford to get because it's free. And I like to watch him. And last year I got to see he finally got an amazing service dog that is out to help him. And he's just out there getting amazing things. And that's just one of the many stories that I've been able to witness. And again, for me, like you said, it's hitting that foundation of seeing someone who cares. For myself, it was having that connection when I felt like there was no one else left. And that's something that I want to be able to give back.
Do you happen to know the gentleman's name? Not to disclose it, but I'm interested to know how many sort of regulars do you have? How many stories do you have that you can sort of check in every year and watch their lives progress?
I do know his name. Like you said, I'm not going to disclose it, but I see him every year, and I look for him too. So hopefully, I'll be able to see him at some point this year. If it's not in November, then hopefully after that.
And you also mentioned, was it the Emerge project? Am I getting that name right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that that's where someone sort of comes in with their unique skill and teaches it to other people. I'm just interested to know what are the variety of skills that you've had people come in with, because everyone, it's like a talent round. Everyone has their unique talent. So what are some of the talents or skills that you've had and people have put forward?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is story writing. I had a woman who came to me who was struggling with speaking her own story about domestic violence. And I had told her my story about surviving domestic violence. And she wasn't ready to be a speaker, but she was ready to able to write about it. And so I helped her be able to write about it. And she decided to develop it into a short story and actually ended up publishing it at her local community domestic violence shelter, and now utilizes that for her own healing. So it's been really amazing. But it's about showing people that there's always one thing that we can do that no one else can do. And sometimes it's as simple as being yourself, and sometimes it's as simple as showing someone how to smile. And I really feel like if we can hit that one thing and everyone can learn how to give that back to somebody else, we could really make a huge impact.
Have you had any skills that have just struck you as very odd or weird or unexpected? I don't know, like juggling or something like that?
Not really. Kind of like the odder the thing. I think it's really cool because it teaches me something different. But I think the one that strikes me as the most unique was they wanted to teach somebody how to do a wheelie on a motorcycle. And I really had no idea at first how to help this person, but really when I kind of broke it down, it was more, again, that fear of public speaking. So I ended up working with the individual to basically shoot like a little how-to YouTube video, which was pretty cool.
Okay. I'm amazed that you were able to do that, because I'd be worried in America about insurance, because if you teach someone how to do a wheelie on a motorcycle and then someone actually does it and injures themselves, I'd be worried about that. But that sounds, do you know if anyone's actually learned to do a wheelie on a motorcycle from watching that
You
video?
know what? I don't know if he ended up publishing it, to be honest with you, which is one of the reasons why we had, like you mentioned, insurance. We had several contracts and everything drawn up because he was aware of that. I think it was more for him overcoming it himself, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was probably more about him than creating the video was more about a process for him than someone else. I'll just bring you up to date with the comments. So Anthony here has said, true. Coco Chanel said famously that when a woman cuts her hair, it's about to change her life. Absolutely. And when you cut someone else's hair,
true.
change their life. Got another hi mum with a very interesting emoji
Smiling
there.
face.
That's a much more complicated one. I just use the emoji button. I'm lazy. Anthony has also said it's true. Sandahl, act simple as a haircut can help in many different ways. Shans, can I join live Zoom? No, you can't join in the actual call, but if you, I did have one person accidentally share this link to someone else, and then they accidentally jumped on the call. But you can submit your questions. I may at some stage bring people live onto the call, but not today. You got another hi, and Brett, who's watching over on Twitch, says hello. I am glad there is some positive news, you and me both. Sandahl, it would probably be remiss of me not to ask, in your state, in your country, what's happening with Corona at the moment? Because in every country it's different, and in every state in America it's different. Obviously, America has gone through a huge upheaval with, you're about to have the election in a few months. There have been a lot of riots in certain states, and it's been hard to keep up with what's happening in Corona in different states. So what's happening in your home state at the moment?
So for us in my state of Pennsylvania, it's kind of hit or miss on what's going on. One day the numbers are down, the next day the numbers are up. Where I live, we are still at a very minimum keeping. We can only have 25 people to one area. Most if not all businesses that I know of are requiring people to wear masks. I do know of a few that are saying, it's not necessarily mandatory, but they're recommending it, but that's very, very low. So we are still very minimal social interaction with the distancing where I'm living. But it is definitely one of those things that really makes you think about everything else going on in the world that you can do at a time like this. And, for me, I'm just trying to stay positive and think about what it's actually brought into my life and my family, as much as there is negative. And I can acknowledge that. For me, it's really, really important just to show kindness and positivity.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to ask, in terms of your pageant journey, how do you feel that you've grown throughout the 5 years? You mentioned it's been a 5-year journey for yourself. So what do you think you've learned about yourself, or how do you feel you've grown as an individual through those 5 years?
For me, it's about the journey of confidence and really believing in myself. When I started this journey, I really didn't even think that I belonged on this stage with these amazing women. A lot of that was just very, very personal. Again, a lot of people think that because, I have, blonde hair and I have a family now that, my life's always been great, but it really hasn't. I've been through a lot of struggle in my life. And I'm really proud to say that I've been through it and I've emerged from it and I've come out on the other side. And for me, it's about fighting for what's passionate. Nothing's going to stop me from doing the things I love to do, advocating for the things I love to advocate. And so for me, it's about really finding myself and starting to really love myself, which has been the best journey of it all. And getting to take my family along with me on this amazing journey has kind of been the icing on the cake.
And have there been any sort of 1, 2, or 3 highlights over those 5 years? I know it can be very difficult to pick out highlights, but have there been any high points for yourself?
Absolutely. So I am proud to say that for 2 years straight, I won the Congeniality Award. Now, most people in pageantry are like, well, you don't want to be named Congeniality because that kind of sets a negative connotation that you can't be kind and a queen. Well, I baffled those odds because the year that I won my title of Mrs. Pennsylvania America was in 2018, and I also was awarded the Congeniality Award, and it's one of my proudest awards. I have another award that I'm very, very honored to have won, which was the Director's Leadership Award within my pageant community, and that's where the director selected the title holder that she believes was a true leader. And that was, again, one of my favorite awards. And then this past year at Mrs. World, unbeknownst to me, I had no idea I was going to win this coolest award. I was awarded the most whimsical costume at Mrs. World for my, I was actually Little Red Riding Hood. I had a traditional drindle from Germany that was actually sent to me by some family members. And I had the Big Bad Wolf on a skateboard, and he literally skated across with me on the stage. And it was really cool. I think he won the award because he was the cutest thing. All the kids wanted to take pictures with him and just loved him. And it was really intense to build it because I had to unpack it and then rebuild it down there. And I'm like sewing him up onto the skateboard and in the middle of the night. But it was definitely worth it. I had, again, no idea that I would even be nominated for an award. It was just something that I had this vision that I wanted to represent the fairy tale country as my German heritage. And Little Red Riding Hood is like one of the most famous German fairy tales that wasn't even German, but that's a whole nother story. And of course, I had to have a big bad wolf. So it was really, really, really fun to take my big bad wolf everywhere with me, including the airport. He was a big fan at the airport.
So did you put the costume together originally in America and then take it over to Germany? Okay, because I've heard horror, because it's those costumes. I mean, you won the Whimsical Award. It's those sort of national costumes that are an absolute nightmare for a lot of pageant girls to take to another country, because they're often very big, or they have set pieces, or in your case, you had a wolf and a skateboard. To get them through customs and get them in a suitcase, often they have to take them onto the into the cabin itself. So did you have, I got to imagine you must have had some issues packing that.
So for me, luckily, my competition was actually here in America, so I didn't have to take it across country. Right. However, I did have to pack my skateboard in my carry-on, which was very interesting. And then my wolf, I took a duffel bag that has like the two handles that like Velcro together. And I like Velcroed him in the handles so that I could like carry him through the airport. It was really, really funny because you would have had been there to see all the people looking at me like, why is this person carrying a wolf? But it was really cool. It was really fun. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I had that award and I still have the wolf. So, you know, it's a win-win. He's sitting in my daughter's room right now.
I would have loved to be the person at customs or the X-ray machine going through, you know, as you put the luggage through and seeing that you've got a wolf, you've got a skateboard. I mean, do you actually skate is the question.
I do not, but my son was attempting to learn at one point. So that's why we have a skateboard. And again, the idea just kind of came to me. I wanted him to be in his bed. The big bad wolf, you know, is found in the bed when, you know, Little Red Riding Hood. So I wanted to make it look like he was asleep, but sitting up half asleep. So it would just come to me. And again, it worked out really well. I sewed it up here, like you said, first, just to test it. And I was testing it in my house to make sure I could pull the skateboard. And then I had to unpack it and then re-sew it again. So it was very interesting.
And you mentioned you have German heritage. Do you speak German at all?
Eine Weining, a little bit. So very, very little. I have been learning for the past year, but very, very little is what I'm working on. And I've been working on just talking to people from there, and Duolingo's been my friend, which is home based in Pittsburgh, if you didn't know that. So it's been a journey. And now I'm actually also learning Hungarian as well.
Is Hungarian similar to German at all?
No, they're not similar at all. Hungarian is a language of its own. It is very, very difficult. But my grandmother spoke it when I wasn't even born, and she unfortunately did not teach it to my mother. And so now we're trying to kind of fix that. And it's been a really good journey. But one day at a time. I'm taking it one day at a time.
Can you say anything in Hungarian? I don't think I've ever heard anyone speak Hungarian.
Not well, so I'm not going to even attempt it yet because I'm still working on the letters. Don't want to. I think it's just from not being around it and hearing it enough. I haven't really gotten the dialect down. I can write it though. We're a step ahead.
One step at a time. Sandahl, in terms of, I mean, outside of pageantry and advocacy, which I'm sure takes up a lot of time, what do you do to unwind, or hobbies-wise or career-wise? So outside the crazy world of pageantry, what else do you have going on in your crazy life?
So normally I am an educator for cosmetology, but right now I'm actually not doing that job. That was my full-time day job for 5 years. And I actually decided to take a leave of absence due to teaching my children at home, which was an incredibly hard decision, but it's been amazing. And I cannot be more grateful to have time to actually spend with my children. So my children's schooling is virtual, like most people right now, for the first 9 weeks. So there's really nowhere else for them to go or for people to watch them. So I made the decision to leave because I couldn't work full time and be a teacher and teach my kids full time during the day and be a teacher. So normally I would say I'm doing that, but I also work with a PR company called An Officer and a Gentlewoman, and I work with them on different brands to help their brands grow and work with them on the pageant side. So I've actually been partnered with the Mrs. DC pageant organization, which is, you saw Mrs. Brightwood on there. So hey, Tamika. And I work with the director, Raquel Riley Thomas, to help them at the state level.
That sounds amazing. Does that leave you much free time or downtime? That sounds like a lot of work to be taking on.
So you're going to find this really funny, but I am a work while you work kind of girl. So during the day, like when I'm doing all this with my kids, like I'll work out, I do squats while, am working with them. I'm trying to now get a better routine of, throwing laundry in between their classes or, getting stuff done. So a little bit more free time in the evenings when my husband gets home, which he is just, one of the best support systems I could have. But not as much as you would think. So, you gotta keep working, gotta fit it in where you can.
Yeah, but that sounds about right to me. Most pageant girls don't. Let's just say they're very, very busy and they don't have a huge amount of free time. Sandahl, as you know, that we always finish with the same 10 questions. But before we go to the final 10 questions, is there anyone that you want to say thank you to or give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
Absolutely. Just there are so many people that have helped me on this journey. First off, my husband, Kenneth Taylor, he's watching right now, Stasia, my son, Blake, just my family in general, all of my friends and family. To Raquel, my amazing director who's worked with me since day one, you've been by my side, to all the girls that are watching here, my amazing pageant sisters from across this world, across different systems. I'm just very, very grateful to have all of you, including you, Adrian, supporting me. You've been, talking with me. We've been doing this interview for a while. I cannot be more grateful. And last, but certainly not least, God, just for giving me an amazing opportunity to refine my passion and giving me a second opportunity to live my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I've spoken to you before and I know a little bit more about your struggles. So it's interesting when people hear sometimes pageant contestants talking about how they've had struggles in their lives and they see sort of the outside glam. They don't really believe that the person has had any struggles. So that's always been, for me, interesting to sort of see how the outside sometimes leads people to assume what's going on the inside when you really, really have absolutely no idea. But Sandahl, do you know what the final 10 questions are? Because I got to think that at this point, most people know what the final 10 questions are.
I do, to an extent. Let's see how good we're going to be at answering them, because I've been thinking about that and I'm like, I really don't know how I'm going to answer these.
I've had a couple of people tell me they've had people like practice with them. They've got really worked up and nervous about trying to provide the perfect answer, and they've been asking their friends, like, because the first question is, what's my favorite word? And they've gone around to their friends going, what's my favorite word? Like, what do I say a lot? Like, you don't have to take it that seriously. But anyway, we'll go through the final 10 questions, and it's not a speed round. You do not need to answer as quickly as possible. But if you want to do that, then you can. So question 1, as I mentioned, what is your favorite word?
Absolutely, without a doubt, it is love. Love is my favorite word. It's the driving force behind everything that matters in life. Love conquers all.
Sounds good to me. Question 2, what is your least favorite word?
Any swear word, especially the one that starts with a C. I don't like that word at all.
Yeah, I have interviewed outside of pageantry before, and that answer to question 2 has definitely come up a lot. Question 3, in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Anything that involves me having fun really gets me excited. I love being outside. I love doing different things in the community. So anything that I can really get my hands onto gets me excited. Like this interview, I'm so excited. I'm like all running around and just I have a good time with it. So anything that really I can get involved in gets me excited.
What about what turns you off?
People that are late. My dad taught me at a very young age that if you are on time, you are late. If you are late, it is unacceptable. And it really is a struggle for me because sometimes I feel that that doesn't give me the free flowingness that I should have. But I really don't like to be late. And if I'm late, there's really normally like something very serious going on, or, you know, I got stuck behind a dumpster or something.
Right. How, for someone to be on time, how early do they have to be in your books? Are we talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or?
So normally my dad would say anything that's about 5 minutes, but I like to be at least 15 minutes early for everything.
You were about 15 minutes early for our interview. So I was like, wow, you're on already. We don't need that much time. But obviously you were prepared. That comes in handy in pageantry as well, because often you can lose points if you are not on time.
Yes, and you always learn too that the elevators, you think that they are fast, but you always need to learn 15 minutes earlier than what you plan to make sure that you can get down the elevators.
That's fair enough. Especially when you guys are in your giant gowns, sometimes you can only fit 1 or 2 people in those elevators. Question 5, what sound or noise do you love?
Outside of my children laughing, very, very corny, but I love the sound of the door opening when they come home and my husband coming home. I get really excited.
That's understandable. What about question 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
I hate the sound of the emergency siren, like the one for tornadoes or the one for hurricanes. Fire trucks don't really bother me. Police don't bother me. But the one that's like really loud and wailing, it really hurts my ears. So I don't like that at all.
Do you have many tornadoes or hurricanes where you're at? I have no knowledge of American geography.
So where I am, not as much, but we also have that siren for other things like major power outage or like downed wires or something like that. So we tend to hear it where I live a little bit more just because of the winds can kick up in the area and like knock things down still.
Yeah, because obviously there was that huge storm that was in the news recently. I think it's dissipated now, but absolutely massive. Question 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Okay, so I asked my husband this question this morning because I was like, listen, this is actually a really good question to ask your husband, right? Like, I was like, totally. Everyone who knows me knows that I am a huge Batman fan, but he has no superpowers. So I decided that I would want to have the superpower of Captain Planet because he can do flying, he can cure hunger, he can do all the things that we need to do in order to actually save the world. But I would like to be able to do it also while being Batman, if that's a fair answer. Just because I love Batman.
With Captain Planet, because I did watch Captain Planet a fair bit growing up, Captain Planet and Batman are two, like, in terms of personalities,
Totally
they're
different.
very...
I know.
Captain Planet is a children's superhero, and Batman is very, especially at the moment, very dark.
Well, yeah, not this Batman, like old school Batman, like he was a good guy, saved the planet, billionaire. What I love about Batman, the original character, is the fact that he doesn't have superpowers. He was a billionaire that wanted to make good in the world because something bad happened to him. And so for me, that was kind of it. And plus, you know, who doesn't love a guy in a really tight black suit that, you know, has a mysterious voice and dark eyes, you know? So there's that too. So I just love it.
I've not thought of Batman in those terms before, but I can now that you've mentioned it, okay, I can see that. I do love Batman and I love Iron Man for the same reason. It's kind of their superpower is more their brain. It's not an actual, like, I mean, they're ordinary people, but they're very intelligent and creative. So I can get behind that. Are you excited for the upcoming Batman with Robert Pattinson coming up?
We'll see when it comes out if I like it. I am very old school. I love Michael Keaton as Batman, so we'll see.
Okay. Did you like George Clooney? Because George Clooney has been interviewed about his appearance as Batman, and he apologized for ruining the franchise. So what did you think about George Clooney or Val Kilmer as Batman?
Val Kilmer, not so bad. George Clooney, I wouldn't be as hard on him. I love that he really tried, but we're just going to leave it at that. Still Michael Keaton all day, best Batman ever. Don't think it can be topped. So we'll see.
That would be a controversial opinion. Let's just leave it at that. If I put an Instagram poll as to best Batman, there would be some votes for Keaton, but I don't think he'd have the most.
I know. Yeah.
What you love, you love. Okay, question 8. What job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
I have always wanted to be either a physician's assistant, or as far as like learning how to teach people more about the health, or a dermatologist. It's right in my alley of giving skincare and kind of cosmetics. But I don't know if I could ever go to school that long. That's a lot of schooling. It's about like 11 years to do either one of those.
Got some support here with the Batman. So I don't know if those emojis mean that's disagreement or whether it's funny. Is Batman a
He's
big...
laughing at me because his favorite is Dr. Manhattan. So, and also Superman. So we are very divided in this house.
I gotta say, in terms of superheroes, I find Superman not the worst, but I find him really boring because he's perfect, he's nice, and like he doesn't have to try because he's invincible and super strong. So I've always found him he's not been like in the top 10 of my superheroes. I wouldn't put him up there. But I guess we're all entitled to our opinions, huh?
Exactly. You know, it's okay. I have to forgive him for his choice in superheroes because, you know, he still loves me for my superheroes, so we're good.
How did you guys feel about the Batman versus Superman movie then?
It was very interesting because we were definitely like picture like football war, like fans and like all that kind of stuff. That was pretty much, I was like, a Batman's gonna kick his butt. He's like, no, Superman's gonna win. So it was definitely that debate. But again, you know what, the one thing that I love about our relationship is like we balance each other out. So no matter what, at the end of the day, it was good because we both were getting excited about the same thing.
Sorry, Sandahl, I just dropped out for a sec. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I didn't hear that. You were just about to get to the interesting part, and then I froze. So can you just bring me up to date? So what happened with the Batman versus Superman? You were talking about like football teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you know how like when you have a really big rival football team and they come out with like the foam signs? I felt like that was what was going on in our house. But the one thing I love about our relationship is that we complement each other. So even though we were on opposite teams, we were still kind of at this cause rooting for the same thing, which was pretty cool.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Question 9, what job or occupation other than your own would you definitely not like to attempt?
Garbage man.
That's such a popular answer amongst pageant contestants for that particular question. Anything to do with garbage or janitorial duties is like, no.
I could be a janitor. I could do janitor, but I don't think I could ride on a garbage truck. Like I could put the garbage into the truck and then maybe walk along the garbage truck, but I don't know if I could actually like hang on to a garbage truck.
It's not the most glamorous of jobs, but it's certainly a very, very important one. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, now see, this was the one that I was really thinking about for a long time. And I would really just like him to welcome me and to say, you know, even though you've been through a lot, you did a great job and come meet the rest of your family.
Yeah, that, out of those final 10 questions, that's probably the most thought-provoking one outside of what superhero power would you like in life. Sandahl, look, we're just about at the end, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to finally get on and connect with you. And I'm so glad that I was able to come on.
Absolutely. It's been great having you on. I will keep you on for just a second longer whilst I hang up with the audience. But thank you so much for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. And we will speak to you again very, very soon. What's up, guys? It's Adrian again. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to head over to pageantlaunch.com. Join our launch team for our review site. It's super important to all of us to make sure that the industry is safe, transparent, and fair. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, whack in your email address, and we'll speak to you next time.